Welcome back, Tyrants. Today we have another One Piece chapter review, and this time it's 990, A Lone Force. We'll start off with the color spread, in which it looks like we have Lola and Chiffon pulling in Pound from the sea. It looks like the proof that he had with Big Mom's picture and them being in the background was enough to convince him that maybe this is our father. And not too much to say on this. I assumed to some degree that they wouldn't leave Pound behind for too long, and it looks like they're already pulling him back, so that's that. Again, not my favorite cover story, but it seems to be progressing towards some point, so we'll see how that goes. We start off the chapter with Sasaki being freed from when he was chained up by Kuroshiro, and it looks like Big Mom's mighty nation came through, blasted through what he refers to as a sacred tree, and essentially set him free. Now, what he means by sacred tree, I'm not sure. I wonder if it's actually relevant to the story or if it was just an offhand comment, but that does interest me. Sasaki mentions that Kuroshiro was one of his closest friends, and that he plans on getting revenge for what he's done. So I'm wondering if he's going to be playing a huge part in fighting the Straw Hats, or if he's going to be going up to join Kaido. The last thing we see him talking about is what's all the noise at the top of the skull, and the crew says that's where Master Kaido is. So I'm wondering if that's going to be his destination. It's also notable that Sasaki seems pretty relaxed about the whole situation. He's just drinking and he's talking fairly casually. At most, he seems annoyed by a situation, but nothing else. And I wonder why that is. It seems like he has an air of not caring. And that might be because he doesn't know the full extent of the situation, but we'll see as we get more of Sasaki. We then pan over to Kaido and the Minks, and it looks like the fight between the Scabbards and Kaido has not started yet. They're more or less waiting for the Beast Pirates versus the Sulong Mink army to finish up. You see Kaido kind of watching over the fight, and you see the Scabbards watching as well. And then you see all the commotion of the Beast Pirates and the Sulong Minks just going at it. We get this panel of Jack kind of fighting with the Minks, and we see that he's pretty roughed up. So it looks like the Sulong army, which is to be expected, the Sulong army is able to do some decent damage to him. He's got a sword stuck in his trunk. He's got swords in his back. He's bleeding. He's taken some damage from this fight. But it's also notable that he's taking out a lot of people. I think we see some of the bigger names of the Mink army being knocked out or knocked down, and Jack's still pushing forward. And that's one of the things that he boasts with his power, is that he's very endurant. He can go through a lot of fighting. So while he's pretty banged up, I don't think he's necessarily losing this fight. And another thing that reinforces that statement is that it looks like Kinemon and even some of the other Scabbards are noticing that the Minks aren't winning, because they get ready to join the fight. We see Kinemon get ready to unsheath his sword and try and fight Jack as well. But before we get too far, we see that Inuyasha and Nekomamushi have what it looks like completely transformed. They're still silhouetted, so I'm not entirely sure if it's complete yet, but they're in Sulong form, and they are the ones that are going to fight Jack. And I think at this point, Jack might lose. I think that he's gone through a lot with just the army, and now he's got to face the captains, who are in their full Sulong form, after he's already been pretty beaten up. So I'd like to see how well that fight goes. I think it leans more in the Sulong's favor, but we'll see. And I think that the next spotlight is going to be Inuyasha and Nekomamushi versus Jack. I think that we're still going to be waiting for that Kaido fight for a little bit more. I think it's also worth noting that the Scabbards might be a little bit scuffed up already. We see Kinemon has some blood on his face and bruises, and I believe that's from the fall when they all attacked Kaido at once. To be honest, I think that did a lot of damage to their team, more so than it probably did to Kaido. I don't think it'll affect their fight, but I think it is notable. And then we move back to the inside, where we have Queen and King meeting up, and they're kind of assessing the entire situation. King makes a call to the Flying Six, and he tells him that all of the infighting is off. So even if you find Yamato, you're not going to fight one of the All-Stars. Pretty much we have a bigger situation here that we have to deal with, so get over everything else. And naturally some of the Flying Six don't really like that. You know, you have Ulti voicing her anger with Pei. We actually see Black Maria. I'm still not sure where she's at or what she's been doing, but we do get a glimpse of her somewhere. But during this announcement, we have a conversation between Drake and Hawkins. Now it looks like Drake helped Hawkins after Law left. What I perceive to have happened is that Drake helped Law get free. And then once Law left, once Law acknowledged that if you want to help, that's fine, and left the area, Drake went in and helped Hawkins. And I believe that's to save face because as a double agent, he's coming in. He didn't necessarily want to show that he was helping Law, but he also wants to show that he's helping Hawkins. So I think he does that to kind of keep in the role, even though it doesn't work out well for him. Drake mentions to Hawkins that this is pretty much his chance of getting away. Everything's in chaos. No one is really paying attention to anything. This is the time to get out. And Hawkins says that's not realistic. One, would you even let me do that? And two, I don't think he would be able to just leave the area. I think there's a lot that comes with trying to get out of Onigashima. And even if he makes it out, if you run into Kaido or Beast pirates, you're going to have a problem. So he refuses and he starts doing his predictions with his cards. The thing he's predicting this time is the probability of that man being alive tomorrow morning. And there's a lot of speculation as to who he's referring to. Some say it could be Kaido. Some say it could be Law. Some say it could be Luffy. Personally, I'm going to say that it's Luffy just because of what he says. He's saying that it's at 1%. And I wonder if that's a nod to Marineford when Hawkins was doing the same card readings. And he finds out that the probability of Luffy surviving never drops below 1%. And it seems like a similar thing is happening here. But as they're talking about that, Who's Who comes, and Who's Who asks Drake to help him take out Queen. Everything's in chaos, things are disoriented. This seems like it'd be the best time to take out one of the All-Stars. Drake, I think, begrudgingly decides to go along. I think he initially says that, I don't really want to be involved with that, but he ends up there anyway. In the middle of that interaction, we kind of get a brief skirmish of what's happening with these Straw Hats. And we see that they're facing up against the Numbers, who again they refer to as pretty much versions of Oars. You had Nami last chapter saying that they were as big as Oars. And you have Luffy this time describing how in the past they fought someone like Oars and it would have taken the entire crew. But now he's saying it's different. It really only takes Luffy, for example, to take down someone of Oars caliber, which I think is a huge improvement, because with Oars, not only did it take the entire crew, but it took the entire crew. It took planning, it took cunning, it took a lot of strategy to bring Oars down. And that in partial had to do with his zombie body, but the overwhelming strength was something that they couldn't handle just, as a crew fighting. They needed a lot of help doing that. So we have that parallel there, and I think it's very similar to how we have that parallel of Luffy versus the PX-1 in Simone Archipelago, where it took the entire crew to beat one pre-time skip. Post-time skip, Luffy can one-shot one with Gear 2nd, and I think it's a growth like that. Something else I want to note is that Luffy has gone into Gear 4 again, and this is probably like the 4th or 5th time he's slipped into Gear 4, and it seems like it's becoming much more easy for him to do that. It seems like Gear 4 is becoming the new Gear 2nd, or at least similar into how Luffy could use Gear 2nd without necessarily needing to go all out. With Gear 2nd he used to run out of energy, he used to run out of stamina. And with Gear 4 he used to run out of energy, run out of stamina. But it seems like with Gear 4 now he can use it for certain periods of time and not be blown back by any after effects. We've still yet to see what happens after he goes out of Gear 4. We kind of see him go in, take care of business, and then the next panel he's already back to normal. So it doesn't look like there's any negative blowback from him using Gear 4 now. But we pan back to Who's Who and Drake, and it looks like Drake's been found out. We have Queen here, we have Who's Who, we have Hawkins, and then we have Drake bloodied on the ground between them. And this was something I was not expecting from this chapter. I know in the beginning, when we first had Queen mentioning he wanted to take someone out, everyone thought that it was Drake. Everyone thought that he had figured out that he was a traitor. But the more we heard about Who's Who and how he wanted to fight Queen, we started to think that there was a very specific rivalry between the two. That Who's Who and Queen really did not like each other and that they wanted to fight to the death. As it turns out, they were setting up Drake this whole time, which is huge because that means Who's Who has been setting up this interaction since we were introduced to his character. When he first brings up, hey, what if Queen were to die right now? He's actually setting up this exact scenario. He's building that lore of, I want to fight Queen. Queen's the one I want to kill. If Queen dies, it's better for the rest of us. As soon as we meet him, he's setting that up. And it's all a cover for what's happening now, which I think is an awesome plot twist. I really wasn't expecting that. I had gotten over they know Drake is the traitor idea a while ago, and I was kind of expecting something else, but to see that they did realize it, that's kind of crazy. And it seems like Hawkins is in on it too. I don't know if Hawkins is playing a role to keep himself safe, if he still plans to betray Kaido at some point. I really don't know what Hawkins' motives are, what he wants to do. I still believe in the end he will switch sides, but it's becoming less apparent how he's going to do things. As they're talking to Drake, an explosion goes off, I'm imagining from the fighting outside, and Drake uses that as a chance to escape. He rushes out, and he ends up where Luffy is. He ends up where the numbers are. And he actually, what looks to be, he lands a pretty strong attack on the numbers. I'm not going to say it knocks them out quite yet, but he does land an attack while Luffy's landing an attack. So, we have this panel of them attacking together, and Drake asks Luffy, hey, I'm a lone force. Can I be on your side? How this is going to work, I'm not entirely sure. Luffy, to some extent, should know that Drake is or was part of Kaido's team. So if he's going to be that accepting, I'm not entirely sure yet. We have the same situation with Yamato, in which Yamato seemed like she was on Kaido's side, but we know how that turns out. Something I'll point out about Drake's dialogue as he's escaping is that he says, should I go back to the Marines? But then he says, no, I still have a job to do. And that makes me think that there really aren't any Marines coming to Wano. I know that they've kind of been stressing that fact that they don't have the resources to come here, but we still get the kind of feeling that someone needs to. We need more assistance here. So with Drake even saying that I still have a job to do here, I can't go back yet, I feel like that means that he's not getting any help from the Marines at least. And that's why he's trying to join Luffy's side. In my opinion, all of the Supernova will be fighting together at some point, so I'm imagining that Drake's going to be joining within the next chapter or two, just as an ally, just as someone to help with the fighting. But the chapter ends on that note. I thought this was a very good chapter. I thought there were a lot of surprises in this one that I really wasn't expecting. I was kind of looking to see more setup as to what the fights were going to be, but this actually took a different route, gave me a lot of answers to some questions. It finally gave us Sasaki again. It cleared up the whole thing with Queen, Who's Who, and Drake. So I think a lot of questions were answered here, and I really wasn't expecting that from this chapter. I was expecting that a bit further down the road, so I'm glad we got it now, and I'm really excited to see what happens next. But go ahead and let me know how you felt with this chapter, how you felt about the video. Like, comment, subscribe. Have a good one.